Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast, the podcast where two ladies play games, shout profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to the spooky summer spectacular listener story episode of the Wheel of Crime podcast. How many more syllables can I add to make that name even longer?
Super spooky, spectacular, spagorigal,
Sporific.
sporific, spores, spoons, campfire story of the
Forks.
summer. Woo!
Campfires, ghosts.
Woo! Is everybody feeling extra spooky today?
I know I am. Honestly, I'm just like full-fledged into fall at this point. I got, finally, one of those Keel James Patrick sweaters, like the ones that you see on TikTok with like the little pumpkins and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm so
you've
excited.
been eyeballing that sweater though for I think the last 3 years. It was time.
It was time. It was like stupidly expensive to ship here though. Like I think the shipping was like $90.
Yeah, that's like I got a tapestry blanket too at some point. That was like a weird thing where it's like, oh, it's already an expensive item, but then the shipping's like $100, and I'm like, and for what?
Yeah, literally for what?
Literally for what?
Okay. For what?
I genuinely, and like, I don't know. I've had to deal with shipping occasionally for my job, and like, I still don't understand why shipping's so expensive for random things sometimes. It just,
I know.
it don't make no sense to me.
Bunch of bullshit if you ask me.
It is a bunch of bullshit. All right, well, what have you been up to? What would you like to share on the show? How have you been embodying the spirit of the summer?
Well, it's kind of bittersweet now that the summer's like over, basically.
I'm kind of mad, actually, if I'm going to be kind of honest, because summer's so short for us, and I did not even get to have one single day. I just wanted one day to go outside and tan, and that never happened because all the hot days were all on weekdays this year. All of the weekends were either rainy or cloudy or smoky, and none of those things are good for tanning outside. I just wanted to be able to like have like, I don't know, some kind of like summery beverage, my little book, my cheeks out in the heat, taking some of that vitamin D, get a nice golden glow. Never happened.
Well, next year.
Hopefully. I really try to make an effort this year too. Like I literally have like a swimsuit hung by my front door for like the chance that I had the opportunity to go outside, and yeah, didn't happen. And then it couldn't happen anyways towards the end of the summer because apparently there's a wasp nest on my front yard in the dirt. So that's not super convenient for doing anything, actually.
I believe that. I believe that that's not super conducive to being outdoors. You know, I don't think the wasps want you out there.
Not even. They don't even want me to leave or enter my home, like my domicile. The second I start putting in the key code, because I have one of those doors that it doesn't have a key, it's like a do-do-do-do thing. Every time I do that, it's like they can sense that I'm there, and then they start swarming, and they're like, ooh. And it is seriously the most like nerve-wracking thing on planet Earth. It's like, what was it? I was bringing in groceries like a few days ago, and I literally hit the keypad, and I was like, they're coming. And I was and like, I kept typing it in wrong because I was so scared because my arms are just full of groceries, and all I can hear is, ooh. It's like the wasps are like rising from the dirt, and I'm like, I gotta get inside. Shit! It's like just the key,
spooky.
like the key pad thing. I keep entering it in wrong, and I'm like, I'm gonna be locked out here with a bunch of angry wasps, and my arms are full of milk. What am I gonna do?
Oh my god.
So stressful for no reason.
Horrifying.
So that's scary, just like as a person.
Yeah.
But as far as like summer spectacular stuff, I've also been kind of getting more into the fall feeling. I went shopping for candles the other day, you know, as one does at our age, because it brings me joy. And I found some like harvest pear scented candles and some cinnamon pumpkin and some of that stuff. So I'm super ready. It's time, and I'm here for it.
It is time. I'm like biting at the chance to decorate my home. My husband's kind of like, no, wait for September 1st. And I'm like, I just want to do it now.
I know. It's the husbands love to take the things that are fun and put chains on it. It's like, no, you can't
like,
enjoy
why?
yourself just yet. Just yet. And you're like biting, yeah, like you said, gnawing at the chain. You're like, set me free. Get me out of here.
Just let me light my fall candles and live my life the way I want, okay?
Right? It's like one of my sisters too was messaging me the other day, and she was like, I've already got Twilight playing and like the Gilmore Girls, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds good. That sounds so good right now.
It does. Oh, what a dream. Honestly, I fucking love fall. I'm so excited for everything to be fall, but I'm really scared for winter because I hate winter.
Same. And then also I got the really unfortunate news the last time I brought my little Juke in for a service, because they were like, did you know that your front tires are literally starting to show the threads under the treads and they need to be replaced ASAP? And I was like, you're just saying that. They're not just saying that. So now if I don't get them replaced in time, because people like to panic in our parts as soon as there's even the mention of snow on the wind, and I'm worried that I'm not gonna be able to get in time to get my tires replaced before the first snowfall. So that's my panic of the fall season.
Jesus. Yeah. I hate car maintenance. Genuinely, that's what's really spooky in this episode, is talking about maintaining my vehicle.
The scariest thing in today's episode is anything related to car maintenance. And like, here's the thing.
I think it's so stressful right for now. What?
Oil changes, sure, whatever. Like, I get a sticker that tells me what kilometers I need to be at before I go in for an oil change. That makes sense to me. It's everything else that ages me like 500 years every time it has to be done. Like rotating tires, replacing tires, coolant, airing up your tires. No, thank you. Like, what?
Like, it's also stressful for what? Like, I'm just a girl. And I don't want to do any of that.
I'm just a girl. It's like
I just want to drive my little vehicle to and from Starbucks and to and from HomeSense. Just like, why can't I do that without it being difficult?
That's literally all I need.
Why is it so difficult?
And like, the funniest thing too is like, with all of that stuff, I had like a little mini panic about my banana peel tires to my husband like a couple weeks ago, because I was like, because I had to get it patched was the thing too. Like, it's already been like it's been so much work already, like getting it patched and having to refill them all the time, and now they need to be replaced. And so I was talking to him and I was like, well, what am I gonna even do if like the tire blows up? And he's like, change it. You know how to do that. And I'm like, yes, I know that I know how to change a tire. I just would rather cut off one of my own limbs than do that. I just hate it. And like, it takes so long. Like, have you ever replaced a tire?
Yes, literally. This is why I have so much vehicle anxiety, because I'm like,
eats at my soul.
Stressful. Like, it's so stressful. I know that it's fixable. I know that it's fine. I know that whatever. Yeah. I don't care. It stresses me the fuck out, and I don't like it.
And I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? Like, get the car jack out, like, get this car all the way up, get the little wrench out and take off the nuts, and then take the tire off. And then you know what's going to happen? I'm going to stick my neck under that car somehow, and it's going to fall down and kill me, is what's going to happen.
Literally.
Like, because I'm just a girl. Because this is just what happened. I'm just a girl. What else am I going to do?
I don't know. It's spooky, and I hate it. And actually, it's giving me chills. I don't like it.
Giving me chills, too. I am also looking forward to, though, just like with the candles, getting a candle lit, and then having a little mini Halloweeny movie marathon with somebody. Because I keep seeing those like TikToks or Instagram reels or whatever, what have you.
So bad.
It's like the cute little outfits that are all Halloweeny, the little treat bowls that are all Halloweeny, and the movies that are all Halloweeny and everything. And I'm like, that is literally what I want. I want to go to Bulk Barn. I want to get more candy than I'm ever going to be able to eat in one sitting and feel like shit for the next 5 days. I want to wear a cute little, like
get a
lounge
pizza.
outfit. Yeah, get a pizza. Watch Halloween Town, because now that you've made me watch Halloween Town last year, I gotta do that now. That's going to be my thing.
Yeah. You're like tradition.
It speaks to me. Wearing sweaters again. Oh. Right?
I know. Okay, I think we need to make this happen because that's my dream.
Yes.
Genuinely, that's my dream.
100%. And I'm like on my little vintage search for a new like Coogie sweater, because I feel like the vintage era that people were really into this kind of stuff is past now, so maybe it's more affordable now is what I'm hoping for. So we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed for you.
Me too. But yeah, I guess we should get into today's episode. Hey, since we have been hyping it up literally all summer long.
It's true. Let's spin the wheel of questions.
Number 2.
What's your favorite campfire story?
My favorite campfire story?
Yes.
Here's the thing. I'm a slut for campfire stories. I don't care what they are or how old I am. If I'm camping and everybody's crowded around a fire talking about something, I have to be there. I have to be there. I don't care. You could be telling me the drama about like the Duggar family, or is it like when we were like kids at summer camp and people are like, here's the ghost that lives in the bathroom. I will always be there. I have to know. Like, I will be there.
It's just genetically in you to be there.
Right? But if I had to pick a favorite, I would say, and I think we talked about this maybe in one of our last couple of years of doing featured spooky stuff, because that is kind of our whole show. I did really love being like, I think it was like 12 or something, and going to like sleepaway camp, and then people would be like, have you heard the story of the babysitter who's babysitting at the neighbor's house, and the kid's in bed, and there's a creepy clown statue in the corner, and she calls the parents and she's like, little Timmy's in bed, but this creepy clown statue in the corner of the room is really freaking me out, and the parents are like, Stephanie,
what statue?
Yeah, Stephanie, what statue? We don't have any clowns. Like, that era of storytelling, I love it.
Iconic.
So iconic. It was creepypasta before creepypasta.
Or like the one where it's like, there's like the sound of like the tap dripping, and then they get up to like go check it out, and then they realize it's blood.
You realize there's blood dripping from the walls. And then there's like a few good ones. I can't remember right now. I bet you they are actually probably all on creepypasta now, just because that's usually how that works, or like Reddit or something.
Yeah.
Well,
or in some email chain somewhere still.
That's the thing. If I had my first ever email account that I had from when I was like
1 year old,
10 or whatever, when we were sending chain emails around where it's like, send this email to 10 of your contacts, otherwise
the lady's gonna get you.
The lady's gonna climb up with her chains from under your bed and drag you to hell. Like, that would be fun.
I fucking loved those chain emails. They're so iconic.
Right? All right. Let's spin for our next question. Number 1. What is your favorite method of torture? We're going off the beat
for
path
myself
today, guys. No,
or to do upon others.
Well, I was thinking about it because, see, here's the thing. When we were coming up with like questions and whatnot, I was thinking about recent conversations I've had with anything that was kind of like adjacent to like crime or like something scary or whatever. And me and somebody else were really reflecting on how good it would feel to put ourselves in like one of those medieval torture racks with like the crank on them that stretch you out.
So like the ones that like crack your back.
Yeah, and it got me thinking with our show. I know we've talked about like so many different methods of like just, you know, crime and torture and what have you in general, but I don't know if we've ever talked about like what our favorite is or why.
I mean, I genuinely do find a lot of like the medieval methods of torture really interesting.
Yeah. Creative. Some of them are really creative.
Yeah. Very creative. I'll definitely give them like brownie points for that. I don't know if I can say like they're my favorite because it's torture, and I don't know that I have I don't know that I have a favorite method of torture. I haven't done it enough. Or at all.
You're like, I have neither done nor experienced any of these things enough to have a true opinion.
I torture my husband constantly.
Oh, I mean,
by,
me too.
You know,
but like that's
just being myself. But that's another
like, that's
story.
Just personality stuff, though. That's different.
By being crazy, and he's like, Jesus Christ.
Right. I don't know. I would agree with you. There's definitely some where I'm like, yeah, that like definitely interesting. Like I might jokingly say put me in the rack because I think it might actually help my back feel better. But like as far as like interesting ones go, I always remember I think there was like a TV show or something that I used to watch with my parents growing up. I don't remember what it was called, but it used to go over like different like historical torture methods and kind of what they were.
Yeah.
And the two ones that I remember the most, no, three. The three ones I remember the most are the one where it was like, I'm pretty sure in medieval England or something, whatever. But it was like they would have a guy like tied to the ground, and then they would put like a bucket with a rat tied around his middle, and then they would like light a fire on top of the bucket, so the rat wanting to get away from the heat would like eat through his body, which doesn't sound great, but it's very creative.
Yeah.
And then the other two I remember were, I think, from like the Asias, so like China, Japan, Korea, like those areas. And there was one where it was like a hat with blades on the inside, and they had to like basically, maybe this was this sounds like an execution method. I'll count it as torture. But basically they would like lasso this hat onto somebody, and it was on like a drawstring almost, like it had a rope attached to the hat, and there was blades on the inside of the hat, so they would like throw this hat over people's heads and then pull the cord, and the blades would like close in around that person's head and basically trap and like decapitate them, but then the head would be in the hat, which I always thought was kind of cool.
That's insane.
See, I might have to fact check that and see if it's real. I just remember being like 12 and being like, that is so crazy.
That's sick.
That's sick. Or there was like another one which is like super similar to the rat one actually, but it's also from like the Asias, where you strap somebody down to the ground, but you have bamboo planted underneath them because bamboo grows really quickly, and then it would literally grow through their body. Give them.
Yeah, I've heard of that one before. I feel like that's like one of the like gnarliest ones for sure.
Well, because it's like literally making like a tree grow through you, which is like,
Ew.
yeah, there's reason it's torture because it sounds torturous.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, getting like eaten alive sounds horrendous to me, especially like
absolutely.
slowly.
Yeah, well, and you'd also be getting burned too, because if they're lighting a fire on a bucket and the bucket's on you and the rat's in the bucket, you're getting both eaten and burned at the same time.
Double whammy.
Right? Well, should we spin for our next question?
Let's spin. What is your favorite campfire snack? Mine's a s'more. Hands down.
S'more. Yeah, that is a good one. S'more. I'm really good for one of those right now. This is tricky. See, I'm a big like I like to treat campfires kind of like you're going over to a sleepover and you're bringing sleepover snacks. So I also really like getting those like little like what are they called? Pepperoni sticks and having chips and stuff. Like something a little savory, sweet like a s'more. Even just like a nice burnt marshmallow even is good too.
Yeah, I love a good burnt marshmallow. I know people hate on burnt marshmallows, but I genuinely think they're better than like golden brown.
I think they're great for different things. Like I like a good burnt marshmallow because I kind of like the bitter taste.
The char.
Yeah, which might make us psychopaths, is also what I've learned. Because most people do not feel the way that we do. I could go for either or, though. Like, I like them good, like, toasted nice, but also burnt. Like, I will take either or.
I think I just prefer burnt. Like, I'll eat a golden marshmallow and be happy about it, but, like, if I'm making it myself, it's burnt.
No, my favorite thing ever is when Jen and I went to Waterton earlier this year, we had marshmallows and she fully just stuck hers on the edge and threw that shit right in the fire. And the other people we were with her like, what are you doing? And you're like, I like it how I like it. It's just like flaming. It was great. I love it. I'm trying to think about like maybe some camping snacks I had as a kid. I used to remember like sometimes when we would go camping with like family as a kid, like people would make popcorn balls. That was also really good too, because it would be like a marshmallowy popcorn ball, or like, I don't know, just so many good things.
camping snacks and like campfire snacks were always like the best. You know, I was always like those like really good junk foods, you know, like beef jerky and like hot dogs.
Yeah.
And s'mores. Like, love that. I love that for us.
Mama. All right, well, let's spin for our last question. All right. What is your favorite kind of like a I don't want to say Halloween-y, but you know how there's like fall season associated animals or like end of the summer associated animals? Like, do you have a favorite, like a crow or like an owl? Like something like, you know, that vein of thinking?
I feel like I really like a black cat for Halloween.
I love that too. It's almost like I feel like animals are kind of like the intro into kind of like the vibes of the season. It's like when you start seeing those things where it's got like a crow on it, or like you said, a black cat, then you're like, oh, we're dipping our toes in the water.
We're getting smoky.
We're getting smoky. I do also really love a black cat, also because I own one. So I do see one every day, which is also fun. And then, but I think if I had to pick one that's like seasonally, it would be probably a crow or an owl. Like, I do love when you're watching something and it's meant to like set the scene and there's a little bit of like the hoo spookiness factor.
Yeah, I feel like an owl or a black cat or a crow. Those are all great options. A crow would definitely be my second pick, but I think black cat is just like so classic spooky, you know?
Yeah, and I also like too that's not just Halloween-y, because I was also thinking like for like a campfire, what's kind of the vibe? But like if you see an owl or a crow or a black cat at a campfire, that kind of adds to it too, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's fun.
So fun.
As we lose all of our listeners because they're like, you guys sound crazy and also are super annoying, but that's fine.
They're like burnt marshmallows and owls, we're gone. Yep. See you later.
Exactly. But we're not going to do a description of what a campfire is for you guys, because I feel like we actually did one last year for the Campfire Listener Stories episode, and I won't torture you guys twice with the same thing.
That's my favorite method of torture.
Telling our listeners the same information over and over again in the first 30 minutes of the episode every day. Yeah. You know what? Mine too. I'll take that one too, because my memory ain't so good, and we probably do that a lot, and I'm not going to change.
It is what it is, you know?
It is what it is.
All right, but with that, let's get right into our listener stories. So, you guys submitted, and I picked some ones that I thought were good. There were some really interesting submissions this time around, so I tried to pick a good variety of what we got here, but I'll let Emily take it away with the first story.
As always, I know nothing about anything that's going on, so this is going to be fun and fresh for me.
Exactly.
But yes, to start with, I have, hello, Wheel of Crime ladies. I was a really dumb teenager, which I don't think there is such a thing as a smart teenager. I'm just going to throw that one out there, because people always are like, I'm a dumb teenager, and it's like, yeah, I think that's the universe, babes. we were all stupid. I'd recently gotten a BB gun, and my friends and I were fucking around with it. Long story short, the cops got called, and they thought I had a real gun. Jesus. And I was trying to open up the clip to show them it was just a BB gun, and during that, I turned it to the side, not realizing it was pointing directly at them, which led them to nearly shooting me in a felony aggravated assault charge. Jesus Christ. But also, what kind of cop is rocking around thinking that teenagers are just wielding guns in the middle of the street? That's like, I would say that's not a normal thing.
Maybe it's an American thing.
I have no idea. But either way, crazy. Because, you know what, that's fair. It's a fair assessment that you're saying that you were a really dumb teenager. That's one of those things upon reflection where you're like, why was I even there? Why was I even there, and why was I even doing that? We'll never know.
But I feel like the amount of stress that you would feel in that situation.
Oh, I would shit my pants.
Unmatched.
I don't even know what I would do. Like, throw up, probably. I would be so stressed.
I know. I'd be like, well, that's it. My life is ruined. I'm going to jail. I'm a felon now.
I'm going to jail with a fake gun, and my life is ruined. Yeah, I would be thinking the whole, 10 yards with whatever's going on right there.
That's it for me. You're never gonna hear from
Clock
me
it out.
again.
Right? Oh, jeez.
I'm so sorry though. Like that sounds like a genuinely really stressful situation, and
Oh, 100%.
I would not want to be in that situation.
Me either. My heart definitely goes out to you, and thankfully it's in the past.
I mean, we hope. I mean,
We...
unless they're writing this from jail, I'm pretty sure they're
Oh,
okay.
jeez. Yeah, hopefully not, but yeah.
Sorry. It's not funny, but it is.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I just...
Yeah.
It's a reflection thing, you know?
Speechless. All right. So my first story is, oh man, I've got a horribly funny story that I hope you and the other podcast listeners will enjoy. For a very long time, I was convinced my house was haunted. So much so that I would tell anyone who would listen. Honestly, same.
Literally.
So it was a couple of years ago, late at night. I was home alone watching some scary movies because, you know, why not? Suddenly I started hearing these weird noises coming from the attic. It was like a creaking and thumping, just like in those cheesy horror flicks. At first, I just tried to ignore it, thinking it was maybe just the house settling or something, but then the sounds got louder and more persistent and my mind started racing. I was convinced there was some ghost or intruder up there, and I was getting seriously spooked. I grabbed a baseball bat, I know, classic move, and cautiously climbed up to the attic entrance. Listen, that's your first mistake.
This entire
You never
thing is
go in
already...
the attic.
Yeah, number one. But also, this entire thing's already making me sweaty because this would be my exact train of thought. I'd be like, no, it's just the house. And then when it's very obviously not the house anymore, I'm like, oh, great.
Listen, if it was me, I would not be investigating the attic. I would be out of there. I'd be like, well, time to move.
Yeah, you would get a hotel room. Like, that's the
I would be like, I'm gone.
I would be either going up myself to investigate or sending somebody else up there to investigate. You would literally be out of the country in another hotel. Like, and you'd be like, I'll come back in a few days. If somebody broke in, they'll just take what they want and leave, and I can figure that out later.
My life is not worth it. Like, I'm just gonna go. This is the ghost's house now.
Yeah, listen.
It belongs to them.
Yeah, you're like, we duked it out, we had words, and it belongs to the ghost now. What I have here is no longer mine.
Exactly. They can have it. Take it all. I'm good.
But you know what this reminds me of, just super quick before you get into the next part of the story? Do you remember how we were talking, like, earlier in the show about, like 12-year-old ghost stories? This reminds me of the one about the bride playing hide and seek who gets locked in a trunk in the attic.
Oh my god, I forgot. No, I don't know if I've heard that one.
What? That's basically it. It's like her wedding day, and she's at her grandparents' house, and they're playing hide and seek, and she decides to go hide in a trunk in the attic, and she's like rocking around in there because she gets locked in the trunk, and nobody ever finds her. And then like years later, the like grandparents go to like open this trunk because it's full of like linens or something, and they're setting up for a dinner party, and like the husband thought his wife like ran out on him, and blah blah blah, and they find her like body inside of the trunk, and they're like,
Ugh.
right?
It would stink.
Right? But this just reminds me of that, which is another reason to not want to go into an attic, for fun or otherwise.
Just in general, stay out of the attic. There's nothing up there for you.
No, nothing.
That's just my blanket stance. The attic is not for you. Or for me.
It's not for you. It's not for us. It's not for anyone.
Exactly. So, heart pounding. I switched on the light and nothing. Silence. I stood there for a minute, half expecting something to jump out at me. Then I noticed a small window in the attic was open, just a crack, and that's when it hit me. It had been windy all day, and the draft was making the window rattle against its frame. The thumping noises were branches from nearby tree against the roof, and I felt relief wash over me, but also a wave of embarrassment. Here I was, ready to defend my home from who knows what, and it was just wind playing tricks on me. I closed the window, double-checked everything, and went back downstairs feeling silly. I guess it goes to
still
show.
So much braver than I am, though. Even that, like, still so much braver than I ever would be.
I feel like this might be like a hot take, but there's a certain level of delusion that you need to convince yourself you're like, everything's fine. There's rational explanation.
That's true.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. Everything's fine.
It's just the wind.
Good. Obviously. It's always the wind.
It's the trees outside.
Obviously.
Clearly.
My favorite is like when people are like that level of delusional. Like, say you're like, oh, it's just the wind and the trees outside, and you look out the window, there's no wind and there's no trees. Yeah, that's what it was, from those trees way over there.
It was definitely birds.
Oh, yeah, the birds brought branches and were knocking the branches against my house, obviously.
Oh my god. But yeah, they say, but in that moment, man, I felt like I was living in my own little horror movie. Well, I'm glad that you weren't, so good for you.
Me too, yeah, because like I said, still so much braver than I ever would be.
Literally. All right, take it away with our next story, Em.
You got it. So, many years ago now, an old friend got into a pretty serious car accident on an icy road. He was in the process of moving houses at the time and didn't have any family in the state he could lean on for help. Ooh, don't love that.
No.
The accident happened while he was moving and had all of his shit crammed into his SUV. I lived a few towns over and ended up driving to pick him up after the accident. We loaded as much of his shit into my car as we could, and then I ended up dropping him off at the airport so he could fly to his new house. I was going to be heading in that direction later the year in the summer for a pre-planned vacation. He took the essentials with him, but I offered to drive what he couldn't take with me and drop it off during my vacation. That is so nice. That's a great friend to have.
Yeah. Literally going above and beyond.
Literally.
I'm just scared for where this is going.
I get you live in another state and you're moving houses, but I will help you, not even just with the accident, but also with moving your stuff. That's a great friend.
Truly iconic friend.
Oh, absolutely. I left all of his stuff in my trunk/back seat for months because I had nowhere else to put it, and truthfully didn't feel much like driving at the time. Or didn't drive much at the time. Fair enough, yeah. Months later, we crossed multiple state lines and met up with my friend to reunite him with all of his belongings. As we were unloading, he found his... Sorry. As we were unloading, he found his massive bag of weed he had purposefully stashed in my trunk. What a jack-off. Jesus.
Literally, you're being so nice to this guy, and he's like, you know what? I feel
he's
like doing?
Smuggle my weed
fucking you
for
over.
Me. Fuck you. Like, what? Unbelievable. I am speechless. So, I'm purposefully stashed into my trunk. At the time, weed was very illegal in many states, which I think that's still kind of a thing today. It's like I feel like certain states are being more lenient, but there's still states that are like, yeah, this is no bueno. We do not deal with that.
Yeah.
Yikes. It was very legal.
Especially like a big bag. Like I feel like it's one thing if it's just like a little, like one joint or something, but when
a one and done bag versus like a freezer bag full of pot. Yeah,
that's what I'm imagining.
A brick of pot in your trunk. Jesus. Which was very illegal in many states, including the one I lived in and all the ones I drove through to get to him. Yeah, I was suspicious. As soon as I read the part where it was like driving over multiple state lines, I was like, uh-huh.
Oh no.
I was fuming, because I had been unknowingly driving around with drugs that could have put me away with multiple felonies. Yeah, I would be pissed. Oh my god. It's like, I'm helping you.
You're doing this guy a favor, and he's like, actually, I'm gonna fuck you over.
Yeah, and it's like, that could have put me away with multiple felonies. Yeah, that's like, for some places in the States, that's like almost, like, that could be a lifetime in jail, depending on where you are, and
literally,
and who the judge
and how
is.
much it was.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and stuff like that, too. He didn't give a fuck that I was mad, and said he didn't tell me about it because he didn't want me to throw it away. Dude! Okay, and here's the thing, like, I get that weed, especially in places where it's illegal, like, costs a fair bit of money.
Yeah.
But, like,
this man's driving your belongings to you because you got into an accident and had no one else to help you out.
It's like, if you want to take on that risk yourself, that's for sure. Like,
that's on you.
That's on you. But to loop somebody else in who's literally helping you for free to do this, and like, and here's the thing too. Had our listener been caught and went to jail for this, you know for a fact that friend would not have stepped up at any point to have been like, oh, that's mine, or blah, 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 blah. He would have fully let his friend get locked up for that bag just to save some money. What a jackass.
And he let him store his shit in his, like, car for months. Like,
Yeah.
how inconvenient is that?
But here's the thing, too. Like, after months of sitting in a hot car, you really think you want... Like, I get it. Like, stoners be stoners. They probably smoke the weed anyways. But it's not like it's getting better. Like, what?
It's not aging well.
Yeah, it's not like wine or whatever, or like whiskey. It's not going to get better with time. Like, what? Like, what is even the point of all this?
And just, like, what a downer on your vacation, too. You're like, oh, I'm going to drop this stuff off, help my friend out, see him or whatever. And then you see that and you're like, I feel like you would feel so bamboozled.
Yeah, and then, I'm not sure if I said this too, but in the last part of it, it says we're not friends anymore. As you fucking shouldn't be. I feel like anybody who puts you at risk like that is not a friend to have.
They obviously do not care about you at all, or
and would 100%
respect you
in some
enough
other kind of way. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, this person to me just, like, has genuinely no respect for you or cares about the consequences of what happens to you from you just trying to, like, literally help them.
Yeah, shitty friend. Not a real friend. I would not even call that a friend. That is just a guy or a person who saw somebody they could take advantage of. And to that, I say, fuck you. I know you guys are listening on your earphones or whatever, but I got both my middle fingers up. Fuck that.
Me too.
All right. What's our next one, Jen?
Oh, that one made me mad. But our next one is, all right, so this is a bit embarrassing, but back in high school, I used to shoplift sometimes. Oh no. I feel like we've had a few shoplifting stories now.
Here's my opinion on shoplifting. I understand that it's illegal and you shouldn't be doing it. Definitely a clear difference between people who shoplift, though, from, like, bigger places like Walmart versus, like, mom and pop shops, though. I will say that much.
I would agree with you. I would say that it's obviously illegal for a reason.
Yes.
So, it started out as a dumb dare with my friends, you know, like trying to see if we could get away with it. At first, it was stupid little things like handy or cheap gadgets from the mall. Anyway, I got kind of cocky about it for a while. I thought I was a super kid who could just swipe stuff and breeze out like nothing happened. I feel like that's like how it always goes, you know? Like, you get so confident because you've gone so long without being caught that you're like, I'm never going to get caught. I'm just
and
so
also,
good.
Too, it doesn't help either that, like, there's for a while too, like, not just like new media but old media, there was always kind of like this weird thing where it's like, people stealing stuff or doing something that they weren't supposed to do and getting away with it and how cool it was. Like, that's definitely a thing that's kind of come up a lot.
Faux show. One day I decided to grab something bigger, a video game from the electronics section of my local Walmart. Okay. I feel like Walmart, especially now, is becoming a lot more notorious for, like, catching shoplifters.
I learned it's because they've been using an AI in their cameras to track people of similar profile shoplifting certain amounts of items, and there's like a total, there's like a monetary value assigned to different shoplifters, and then once you are over a certain value of money and they can actually press charges on you, that's when you get caught for shoplifting.
I feel like, I can't remember if we talked about this in our last listener story episode, because I know we had a shoplifting story there too, but I feel like it's like $10,000 or something, because then they can press a felony on you or something, is when they
That's
generally...
the thing, they don't want to catch people for like the super super petty stuff normally. It's when you start getting into like felony territory.
Yeah, where they're like busted.
Yep.
So they say, I stuffed the game in my backpack and started walking out all casually. As I was walking out, the security alarm started going off and I was scared, so I ran. Oh no. Not playing it cool at all anymore.
No, this ain't cool anymore. This is, oh shit. Run!
Look. The security officer ran after me and caught me. He took me back to his office and asked what happened and why I ran. I tried to act cool. I mean, I feel like at that point it's too late. You ran, you're busted.
Yeah, that's like...
You know?
You might as well have guilty literally written across your forehead at that point. At that point, they're like, we know you did something. It's just...
What?
Just what?
Yeah. So they say, I tried to act cool, like I didn't know what he was talking about, but they found the game in my bag. Yeah. They called the cops, and I'd sit there feeling like the biggest idiot while they waited for my parents to come pick me up. Long story short, I got caught. I got a lecture from the cops and got a lifetime It says bacon from the store, but I'm gonna assume ban.
They got lifetime bacon for shoplifting a video game. Man, I've been missing out.
I got a lifetime ban from the store. It was a wake-up call for sure. After that, I swore off that stupid stuff. It's crazy how you can get carried away with something dumb like shoplifting and not realize how stupid it is until you get busted.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's kind of tricky too, because I know, like you said, even with our past shoplifting story or other people I've talked to who've done it in the past, it's that like minor excitement, I guess, that people really get into.
The rush.
Yeah, it's like the reason that people get addicted to gambling. It's that little rush of endorphins for doing something a little crazy and not getting caught. It's never hardly anything, in my experience from talking to people, it's never about like what you're taking either. It's just about how it feels.
Yeah, I feel like everyone I've heard talk about it is like, oh, it's like a rush of like adrenaline of like, oh, I'm taking this thing and I'm getting away with it, and
it's definitely more of a younger person thing too. I've noticed like people seem to grow out of shoplifting, at least from people I've talked to who used to shoplift. I never did because I grew up Catholic and had an overwhelming sense of guilt about being just alive most days.
Same.
So I didn't really need that on top of what I was already feeling. But yeah, I've talked to a lot of people though, and I think though it's because when you get older, then you can actually go to like casinos or like have other things you can get addicted to or whatever. Yeah, outlets and that sort of thing.
I don't know. I never did it because I was always way too afraid of getting caught. Like, that was like my worst nightmare. I was like, if I got caught and my parents were called, that would be the end for me.
I think if I got caught doing something like that and the police were called, I genuinely would have been banned from living in my parents' house. And I was like, I need a place to sleep. So
yeah. Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you learned your lesson and it wasn't too bad then, I guess.
Yeah, let's hope our listener isn't still doing that, because watch this be how they find out that Walmart and other bigger businesses have that AI set up and they're like, they do what now?
Shit.
But yes, I'll get into the story. So here we have, when I was around 11 years old, I had this really bizarre experience at a summer camp. That still gives me chills when I think about it. Oh my goodness, we are on point so far with this story and it being a Campfire listener episodes. This is perfect.
Amazing. We love it. Off to a great start.
Right? So it happened during one of those nights when everyone was supposed to be fast asleep in our cabins, as it does.
So spooky.
All the good stuff always happens when everybody's already asleep in the cabin.
Exactly.
We were in the middle of the woods, surrounded by that eerie silence only forests have at night.
I hate that.
Hate it, but I love it, because it also, for me, is really reminiscent of, like I said, being at a sleepaway camp, because there's always that moment. There's always that moment where somehow you're outside and it's dark and you're in a forest and everybody's asleep, and it's so scary.
So spooky.
It's so spooky. I remember waking up suddenly, feeling this overwhelming sense of unease. Yeah, fucking hate that. It was like my instincts were on high alert. Yeah, fucking hate that. Because, like, not to segue too much from this story, any time in my life where I have ever suddenly woken up, period, had a sense of unease, period, or felt like my senses were on high alert, period, it's never anything good. It's never not for a reason.
I feel like your body is, like, generally trying to tell you something, and, like, there's usually a reason.
Exactly. Whether that be external or internal, because for me it was either food poisoning or or one of these other things. But we'll see. So my instincts were on high alert and I couldn't figure out why. Great. I lay there in my bunk trying to shake off this weird feeling when I noticed a soft glow coming from outside the cabin window. At first I thought it might be someone with a flashlight, maybe a counselor coming to check on us. So I peeked through the curtain and my stomach dropped to the floor. Yeah, that was honestly my thought too. It was like a light coming from the window. Maybe a lantern or a flashlight.
Nope.
There was this faint flickering light moving between the trees. It wasn't like any flashlight beam I've ever seen. It was more like a floating orb of light, shimmering and shifting colors from pale blue to silver. I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I was still half asleep, but the light was still there. Dancing among the trees. I remember feeling this strange mix of curiosity and fear. Part of me wanted to wake up my friends and show them, but another part of me was too scared to move or even make a sound. So, I'm going to throw this in here because this is sounding very familiar to a UFO story I was reading about. Not recently, would have been a while ago, but apparently in a lot of like UFO sightings or abduction stories, people talk about seeing a light or a multicolored light, and while everybody else is asleep and they're awake and stuff like this to me is sounding very like abduction-esque so far.
I feel like I can't even remember when this was. Maybe like a year or two ago. You also did a story about orbs or something, and that kind of reminds me of this as well.
Yeah, I'll get into what I remember about that orb story after this, but let's keep going. That's my suspicion so far. It's sounding a little UFO-ish. I'm very nervous. But another part was too scared to move or even make a sound. The light didn't seem threatening per se, but its presence felt so out of place and so surreal. As I watched, memorized and bewildered, the light slowly started to fade away like it was drifting deeper into the woods. Eventually, it vanished altogether, leaving me with this lingering sense of wonder and confusion. To this day, I can't explain it rationally. Was it some kind of natural phenomenon, like a bioluminescence or a trick of the moonlight? Anyways, I wanted to hear your take on the situation after hearing your episode on wisps. Yeah, that would have been
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah. So for this specific thing, so here's the thing. I do know there's an actual phenomenon that people do see sometimes, where at night when fogs descend, occasionally when lights are reflecting off the fog, it can sometimes give the sense of seeing an orb. I will say with it moving, that's an interesting part for me because like I talked about in the episodes about wisps, there is also a entity that is called a wisp or a will-o'-the-wisp, which moves through fogs and is a projection of light, but is actually meant to be a creature. I think it's if I'm remembering correctly, it's Scottish or Irish, but it's basically luring you to confuse you on purpose to then either steal away your soul or your body or eat you. There's like different iterations of a will-o'-wisp, which is kind of what that sounds like. But then I will say too, since having done that episode, there have been a few UFO stories that I've listened to and read where it says something similar, where basically people who are awake when everybody else is asleep or have singular experiences with moving balls of light, it usually accompanies the lost time. So if you see like a moving ball of light when and where you're not supposed to, but you also have a feeling of lost time, like say like you have this like weird like feeling of like being out of place, or you notice that like a couple hours have passed when it feels like only 5 minutes, like stuff like that is usually creeping into abduction territory. But yeah, either way, super interesting. I love stuff like this.
It's interesting because I don't know, like I wonder if it like the way she was talking about how it was like kind of like moving in the trees and stuff, I wonder if it was trying to like lure her out in some way.
Especially in the woods. That's kind of where
the woods.
Into the woods. But yeah, that's the other thing too, especially if we're like thinking, this is like a nice triangle of like science, folklore, and like alien territory, because it's really hard to tell, but the fact it was moving deeper into the woods definitely makes me a little suspicious. I'm like, yeah, like, it kind of to me seems a little bit luring territory. You know?
Like it feels a little sinister,
It's
especially
definitely
when you wake up with like a bad like gut feeling, you know,
that something's wrong, and then you're seeing something like beautiful but interesting, and it's like moving away from you. Yeah, kind of, you know what, that's probably the feeling that fish have when they're in the abyss and they see the little lantern coming off of the anglerfish. I feel like that's kind of probably what they feel before they get eaten by the anglerfish. It's just
I thought you were gonna say that's what fish when they see the hook. Like a little glimmering hook.
I mean that too. Yeah, they see the little sparkly lure and they're like,
oh my god, a treat
they
for
have a
me.
they have a slight sense of unease, but they see it and they're like, but it's just so beautiful. I need to see where it's going.
And then they bite it and then they're like, oh shit, it's over for me.
Yeah, and suddenly they're thrust into outer space and there's some giant guy in beige fishing gear being like, look at this. And you're like,
I got a big one.
I got a big one. But yeah, it's giving me anglerfish vibes, personally.
Amazing.
Right? But yeah.
So a little extraterrestrial.
Yeah, hopefully that sheds maybe a little bit of some clarity on our listener situation, because when you experience it, there's always going to be like little things that maybe you forget to mention or like you didn't really think about at the time. But yeah, I'd be interested to, hear a follow-up on if our listener remembers anything extra that kind of points towards either will-o'-the-wisp scientific phenomenon or aliens.
I always am curious when people have these stories too, if like, because they're like, oh, I didn't tell anyone because I thought maybe it was too weird or whatever. But you also never know what other people are experiencing around you. So like maybe it was something explainable, like the tree branch. And,
Yeah, when you're like, oh, it must be the trees outside, and you look out your window, there's not a fucking tree out there, and you're like, oh, yeah, it's, the wind caught a branch, and it flew from the forest 10 miles from here, and hit my house, yeah.
But, like, I don't know, like, one of your other friends could have seen something similar, like, the night before, or, like, woken up
totally
20 minutes later, or
maybe there was somebody else who happened to be awake at the same time, and maybe their experience of the situation is that they were frozen in their bed and they couldn't get up and they saw the same thing that you saw, right?
Yeah, or maybe they went out to investigate and now they're gone.
Yeah,
who's to say?
But
I feel like if that was the case, she probably would have incled that information, because
I
feel like it would have been pertinent.
I feel like if a missing child also appeared in this story, we probably would have heard about it, but
who's to say? All right, well, I'll take it away for our last summer camp story, and I'm hoping this one's a good one. It says, hello, ladies. I'll never forget that camping trip when me and my best friends got ourselves locked in this old dilapidated shed.
Oh great. God. Yeah, that sounds
Perfect.
Like my worst nightmare, actually. So,
yeah.
Glad you're here to tell us the story.
Since this happened many summers ago, and I've recovered from the trauma, oh, Jesus.
You're recovered, thankfully. I don't know if I ever would, but jeez.
Yeah, I thought it would be the perfect story to share. It had been a family tradition for many years for my family and my extended family to go on a big camping trip in the middle of nowhere for 4th of July. We'd all sit up in the wilderness and barbecue, set off fireworks, and hang out. That sounds great.
This sounds like really fun.
Yeah. Every year I was allowed to bring a friend, and my cousins usually brought friends as well. This particular year, my cousin brought a friend who was a real creep and kept following us everywhere. Awesome.
Amazing. My favorite kind of weird hang-on person to have at any event that's supposed to be fun.
I love that for you. Me and my friend just wanted to escape him, so we ventured very far out from the campsite. I don't know if that's the best course of action, but
so far, not what I would do.
No, not what I would do either. But I see the vision of where you were trying to.
I do see the vision. Mm-hmm.
Of like maybe if we just like go far away from the campsite, he'll leave us alone. But I feel like if you're saying that he's a creep, chances are slim.
Probably not. Usually people that are a little bit creepy don't know how to read the room. No. And also lack social etiquette. So,
yeah.
Probably not going to work out in your favor.
So eventually we lost him, or so we thought, and stumbled upon this creepy shed that looked like it hadn't been used in ages. My friend really wanted to check it out, and I was scared, but I didn't want to seem lame, so I went with her. Honestly, I've been in that like exact situation, like, because my family used to go camping in the middle of like random places, and there was always like abandoned buildings because of where we live,
Yeah,
like old farmhouses or whatever. And I remember always being like too scared to go in there, but then like I'd be with someone and they'd be like, no, let's go inside and check it out.
Yeah, I had that experience with an old farmhouse on my grandparents' property, and then I ended up taking some like newspaper clippings that had been used as insulation in the walls. And then the building fell down the next day, and then my mom got mad at me for potentially putting a curse on the family because they had like a really bad string of bad luck, and I had to go put the newspaper back in the old abandoned house.
Oh my god!
I don't know if I ever told you that. It was kind of funny.
Oh my god, that's horrendous. So we pried the door open and started looking around. Once we got inside, the door slammed shut behind us.
That's sick. Yeah, that's what you
awesome.
need.
It was one of those moments when you know you've fucked up terribly. That's one way to put it.
Yep.
We tried pushing and pulling at the door, but it was jammed tight. Panic started setting in, especially when we realized we didn't have our phones with us to call for help. We heard the creepy boy when...
Oh, shut up.
We heard the creepy boy who was friends with my cousin on the other side of the door laughing. So he's locked them in. Ew.
Gross.
That's heinous. We started yelling at him to let us out, but he said he only would if we both made out with him for 10 minutes each and let him touch our boobs.
Ew, what the fuck?
We were 13, 14, and he was 17.
Jesus Christ.
That's like that would be my 13th reason.
I don't even know what I would do in that situation. Like, I love that our listener had to preface this story with, I'm over the trauma now. Because, oh my God. Like, why? Literally. And
That's so gross.
You know this guy thought that either he was hot shit being funny or at least he was going to get some nookie out of it. Like, that was his whole thought process about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, that is so nasty. Like, ew.
Especially as a 17-year-old when you're like targeting
you know
like
better
13-year-olds.
100%. Yeah, and why are you sniffing around 13-year-olds anyways and following them into the woods, weirdo?
It's fucking gross.
This is why we gotta throw hands.
We do. I'm gonna beat
this is just why we
guy
gotta
up.
start throwing hands.
So she says, I started bawling because I really didn't want to do that. I'd never kissed a boy before. My friend got angry at this point and yelled, no, we weren't going to do that and to let us out or else. Honestly, I love her for that.
I love her. I'm obsessed with her. That's the energy we need to bring into the rest of 2024.
She's an icon.
Yeah.
He said, fine, hope you girls sleep tight there then. And we heard him push something up against the door to block us in.
Yeah, gross. Ew.
Gross. We shouted for help until our voices were hoarse, but we were pretty deep in the woods and it seemed like no one could hear us. My friend was starting to freak out and I couldn't blame her. I was scared too, but I tried to stay calm for both of us. Nearly 12 hours later, we heard voices outside. That's crazy.
12 hours? Oh, I'd fucking kill him. Actually, you know what I would be doing at this point? I would just be throwing shit at the walls, trying to break out of a window or something. Like, I would have gone ape shit. But also at 13, like, the world's still a big, scary place when you're 13.
Yeah. Well, she said it's a shed, so maybe it didn't have any windows.
Maybe not, yeah.
But, like, still, oh, that's terrible. My parents had noticed that we were missing, and when they couldn't find us, they had called the police. It was bear country, so I think everyone was pretty worried something terrible had happened. We screamed and screamed, and they heard us and managed to pry the door open. We both told my parents and the police what had happened, and hell was raised. The creepy
absolutely.
boy.
Could you imagine,
I can't
as a
even
parent,
imagine.
finding out that one of your relatives' asshole friend locked your children up in a shed because they didn't want to make out with him?
For 12 hours?
Yeah, because they were like, don't touch my boobs. Like, what are you talking about?
And literally, like, I feel like
you would have to hold me back.
Like, what an escalation of events, too, because before the police were called, they're probably like, has anyone seen them? And this kid would have been like, nope, I haven't seen them.
That's the thing, though. The cousin, for sure, would have had to have at least been a little suspicious, I think. Because I think, but maybe not. But I think if you have a friend who does weird stuff, who's just kind of weird already, you at least have an idea of what they're like. I would have been like, I would have been suspicious. I would have been so fucking suspicious.
Yeah. So the creepy boy was sent home, and my friend also went home early. Yeah. Honestly, fair. Her parents were probably pretty worried about her.
Oh, for sure. Especially if especially if her, like, our listeners' parents had to call them and be like, yeah, your daughter was lost
is missing in the woods.
Was missing for 12 hours. Yeah, they'd probably want to go home and maybe cry and eat some mac and cheese and be held tightly for the next, like, few days, at least.
Yeah, no kidding. So they said, definitely not an experience I want to repeat.
Jesus. Yeah. Well, hell yeah, you don't want to repeat that. Like I said, that whole thing would just, first of all, so freaky. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, because damn.
That's horrendous.
And also, another reason why we should be putting all young girls around the age of 10 in karate or something. Because, that's the thing. Weird people with no social etiquette, and I say that because that's just one of the factors. But boys and men who feel like they can act this way and feel validated in acting this way are a plague on society. Like, you're telling
Literally.
me that a 17-year-old is acting this way and feels validated in acting this way to these two 13-year-olds? Like, what did he think was going to happen? Like, how far was he willing to let it go? Like, that would be my fear. I'd be like, oh, so if the police didn't find them in the shit after 12 hours, would he have just left them there? Like, what was his thought process? Like, 12 hours is a long fucking time to not say anything.
I know. Like, how... Like, it makes me wonder, I'm like, what is this kid up to now? Because, like, if they're willing to do that then, and they pretty much got away with it, besides being, like, sent home early on a camping trip, you know? What are they gonna do?
First of all, I hope he got more than just being sent home on a camping trip, because to me, that is a crime.
Yeah.
Just saying. But yeah, I'm happy that
sexual harassment, you know?
Yeah, you know, stuff like that. Jesus. Like I said, I'm glad that our listener prefaced with saying that they've kind of processed the trauma, because damn. Also sending a virtual hug or a virtual handshake, whatever you're most comfortable with, because damn.
Yeah, that's awful. And honestly, like, I feel like it would take you a long time to get over something like that, because how would you trust people? Like,
I'd just be mad that he wasn't sent to jail. Like, I know that
literally
that there's like
jail.
extra offenses that have to tie in for people to be sent to jail. I'd just be pissed he wasn't sent to jail or something.
Yeah, I don't know. And I feel like it would also, like, I know, like, being that age, not saying your friend is like this, but I feel like I remember being like a teenage girl at like 13, 14, and your friends are so fickle, and like, even if it's not your fault or you didn't do anything or whatever, I feel like that could just create like a weird rift between you and that other girl, because you're both like experiencing this trauma and like not knowing how to process it, and like,
or like trauma bonding is the other part of it too, because people process things so differently too.
But like, I just like, I feel like I know if like this had happened to like us in middle school, we would have been like outcast.
Yeah, it would definitely be a weird, like, the dynamics would have changed for sure, I think.
For sure.
Especially
and I think
even with, like, your family, because it was the cousin that brought the friend, right?
Yeah, so then I feel like you would also maybe not trust that cousin anymore, which just sucks, because, you know, it seemed like they were close-ish and, like, went on these trips together, but, like, even as a parent, you would kind of be like, I don't know if I trust them bringing friends anymore, because who are these people that they're bringing?
That's the thing, yeah. It definitely calls into question too, like, how much you can actually trust these people, which that's so hard. Like, even with a situation like this, you don't really know. It's like the ripple effect that we've talked about when stuff like this happens, but
jeez. Well, sorry, dear listener.
Yeah, I could rant forever about how I think weird, creepy perverts need strict. What am I trying to say?
They just need to go to jail.
That too, yeah. But like, definitely more rules and laws and maybe something else in place to prevent people from being weird, creepy little perverts. Would be my preference.
Yeah. Or, you know, just... I don't even know how you
dickheads.
prevent something like that, because, like... Ugh.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a
So
hard one.
gross. But...
Yeah.
That brings us to the end of our Summer Camp Stories listener episode. And now we gotta get into the fall stuff.
Whoop whoop. Yeah, so this is the end of the summer, but the beginning of fall, which we've been so longing for this whole time.
Yeah.
And as always, if you have listened to today's episode or any of our episodes and want to send in a listener story of your own, feel free. Since we started doing these, we now keep the Google Doc up, because I know we get a lot of listener story submissions, and it's just nice to, you know, hear from you guys and be able to share some of your experiences, because for all we know, maybe talking about some of your stories on the show might help out our fellow man or woman at some point. And we do it's fun, and we love connecting with you guys. So if you would like, send in a story of your own. Feel free. Anything you want. It's a good time. And then also, we do have our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime, if you want to check us out on there. We have our website up, which is www.wheelofcrime.com, if you want to check us out on there. Patreon, Wheel of Crime at Patreon. Email wheelofcrime@gmail.com if you want to send us an email on there. And lastly, we do have the option to have the show be reviewed. It does help with us just kind of trending up the charts a little bit, reaching out to new folks, because that's always fun. And I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you would like to plug, Jen, before we conclude this story?
Nope. That's it. That's all. And we'll see you guys next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.